Hi, привитание. My name is Yelizaveta Babichava. Today I'm going to talk about Belarusian language. My personal path to this language was very long. My surname can tell a story about me searching for my identity. So, my surname sounds as Babichava with A in Belarusian. However, in my Belarusian school, I was listed as Babichava in Russian with E. I was born in the city of Gomel, and I was always surrounded by Russian language. I only heard Belarusian language in the house of my great-grandparents, twice a week in Belarusian language classes, and also every day before going to bed on TV as a lullaby. First, I would divide my speech into three logical parts. So, first, I would like to talk about Belarusian content and the state of Belarusian content and how the language can be mastered with the lack of language learning tools. The second part will be about how many people actually speak Belarusian. I would like to delve into the problem of vulnerability of this language, and I would like to trace how the language disappears in my own family. And the third part will be more linguistic applied. I will talk about three languages, Polish, Ukrainian, and Belarusian, which are closely related languages. And by the way, I learn Ukrainian and Polish in parallel. So, I would like to compare these languages because it may be motivating for those who already speak Polish or Ukrainian, learn Belarusian as well. So, let's start. How and where can we study foreign languages? Or revive your forgotten one in language learning schools, listening to music, speaking with native speaker, or watching TV on streaming platforms. And what if your native language is considered as done language and there is a lack of content? Right, collect them bit by bit. Andrei Yanushkevich, museum director and professor of history at the university, opened a publishing house in 2014, at his own risk, of course. The already risky activity as an entrepreneur is twice as risky for him. He's going to publish books in Belarusian. What book should be published? He bet on Harry Potter, an absolute bestseller. If this book won't succeed, nothing will. Finally, it succeeded. The first edition is 2,000 copies. Comparing with other languages, of course, the number is small. But we mustn't forget that we deal with an endangered language. And 2,000 copies is an amazing result. Andrew doesn't plan to stop. He's going to publish Stephen King, who is another modern classic, also in Belarusian. Mr. Yanushkevich is sure that any business is aimed at making a profit, but doing this in culture or art is the highest pleasure, especially when it comes to reviving a language. So, for language learning, reading is essential for its input. But you won't find 100 stories in Belarusian or other adapted literature for your level. You won't even be able to know what level you have because we don't have language proficiency test for foreigners. At this point, every language learner choose their own path. Some pick a children's book, others will start with more complicated Harry Potter and use a method of bilingual book. So, pay special attention to libraries in Poland. Enthusiasts collect books and organize bookshelf in Belarusian language, of course. The books are diverse, from classical literature to more practical ones. There aren't many books yet, but they are being added. And it's important that everyone can contribute. Books are great, but according to statistics, the younger generation who should be taking up the baton spend more than 8 hours online. There is need for Belarusian content online. It's especially important for younger generation. In 20th century, the main method of learning language was watching TV. For example, Italians after 1945 started to speak standard Italian, not understanding each other and speaking different languages and dialects. Learning Belarusian falls entirely on bloggers at the moment, because there aren't any universities in Belarusian. There are numerous channels on different topics, from travel bloggers to political analytics. The number of subscribers is different, from several hundred thousand of Malina channel to several hundreds of Spinoza channel. But the synergetic effect is amazing. And of course, YouTube algorithms support learners suggesting similar content by linguistic principle also. Belarusians joke that if you want to learn Belarusian, you need to go, no, not to Belarus, but to Poland, to Warsaw. Why? Because we have a huge diaspora here. This diaspora has the biggest national self-awareness, and as a result, the constant desire to speak their mother tongue. Also, there are more than 1,000 Belarusian businesses in Poland, and you can also try to speak Belarusian. In the 21st century, in the wake of unprecedented technological development and emergence of internet-based structures, connection among people became more horizontal rather than vertical. If you want to study language, you need to practice it. The best place to practice Belarusian language is the Belarusian Yas Hub in Warsaw. It's not just a place where you can listen to a lecture, but you can also buy a new book and get on a tour of Warsaw in Belarusian. And the most important, that you can find fellow language enthusiasts. So for those who decided to connect their life with Belarusian language, there is another important place. It's a department of Belarusian philology at Warsaw State University. There are master's and bachelor's degree for Belarusian language. If you don't take into account the universities in Belarus, these programs are absolutely unique. Until 2021, it was possible to study Belarusian language in a language course called Mova na Nova. It was founded in Minsk in 2014 by a philologist Olesa Litvinovskaya and a journalist Gleb Lobodenko. In a couple of years, it has gained an incredible popularity in Belarus. More than 3,000 persons attended these weekly courses. The desire of Belarusians to learn the language of their ancestors was great. There were not just courses. People of all ages meet, just send different songs, speak about poetry, literature, and all this stuff in Belarusian. Unfortunately, we can't meet anymore, and we can't learn Belarusian together. The courses were closed in 2021 for political reasons. But we have records of these lectures on YouTube, So you can see these lectures. And for those who want to start to learn Belarusian, I also recommend a lecture that was represented on Polyglot gathering online 3 years ago, that called Belarusian Language and Me, Basics of Endangered Language. Yes, and we also have these courses online, Mova na Nova. So we have some basic vocabulary. You can know some interesting facts about Belarusian grammar, about Belarusian language. So yes, the link is here. So, how many people speak Belarusian? I'm sure enough, if you're interested in languages or in endangered languages, you probably heard about UNESCO classification system. This is a system for categorizing languages based on their level of endangerment. It consists of 6 levels, from safe to extinct. Here you can see the explanation of each category. For example, extinct language is the language that has no speakers left. These languages are considered to be completely lost, and we can only study it through historical records and documents. In fact, this classification system based on generations. If the younger generation speaks the language, it's safe. If the majority of native speakers are from the older generation, things are bad. Belarusian is classified as vulnerable. Most children speak the language, but it may be restricted to certain domains. For example, in school they speak in Russian, in school, universities they speak Russian, and they speak Belarusian only at home. But is the situation with Belarusian really like that? You can imagine how puzzled I was when I saw the official statistics of the latest population census. So, the population of Belarus is about 9.5 million, and more than half declared Belarusian as their mother tongue. Other part choose Russian as their first language. But the situation changed completely when we see the results of the second question. What language do you speak at home? Almost 7 million persons said that they speak Russian at home. Is it possible to raise Belarusian-speaking children when you speak Russian at home? I personally think that no. So why do people in Belarus claim that their first language is Belarusian? Gleb Lobodenko, in his lecture called "What Stereotypes Prevent Belarusian from Speaking Their Native Language," explains this situation in such words. So, I will read firstly in Belarusian and then translate it to English. Раз на 10 гадоў у нашых людзей здараецца камінг-аут, калі яны прызнаюцца ў каханні беларускай мове. Гэта здараецца падчас перапісу насельніцтва, і яны ў графе «родная мова» пішуць беларуская. І паўстае пытанне: ну добра, а ў чым гэта выражаецца, што гэта ваша родная мова? Вы на ёй можаце вольна размаўляць? І пачынаецца пык-мык. So, now I translate it to English. Every 10 years, people in Belarus have some kind of coming out. They confess their love for Belarusian language. This happens during every population census, and they mark Belarusian as their native language in form. And the question is, what does it mean, native language? Can you speak it fluently? They cannot answer. I said that I was surprised by the results of census, but when I registered for Polyglot gathering, I also indicated that my native languages are Russian and Belarusian. So I was raised in a Russian-speaking family. I'm the third generation that doesn't speak Belarusian on a daily basis, but I'm also the first generation that started to speak it. Yes. The history of a death of a language. Як помирає мова. My great-grandmother Maria was born in 1926 in Vasilievka, in Gomel region in Belarus. She lived all her life in his district, and she was the last native speaker in my family, as well as my great-grandfather was. My grandmother, Alla, living in Belarusian context, was a passive bilingual. She represented a phenomenon of diglossia, a typical situation for Belarus these days. When language is used in specific situation, for example, as I said, that in universities, in school, in documents, we use Russian language, and at home, Belarusian language. Actually, my parents can speak Belarusian, even though it's a familiar language to them. Without much effort, children cannot acquire a language as a native speaker, being surrounded by another language context. I'm a vivid example of this. My granny is from Chernihiv, Ukraine. She, all my life, she spoke to me in Ukrainian, but I responded in Russian. I recently turned to Ukrainian. I started to learn it from scratch, but it's still a foreign language for me. Even though I can stress the words correctly, I understand more than 90% of speech. It's still foreign language for me. I think if the statistics reflected the reality, we wouldn't have seen such news as in Gomel, only one teenager chose to take the final history exam in Belarusian rather than in Russian, or we are looking for children in Grodno to complete a Belarusian-speaking group in a kindergarten. Unfortunately, this news reflects our reality better than any statistics. So, 1 minute. So what we can learn from these statistics? A lot of Belarusians understand language is not only the way of communication, but it's a unique cultural code of each nation that stores the historical memory of generations. Unfortunately, when it comes to practice, Belarusian finds a lot of reason not to speak their language, Belarusian language. There are different reasons. For example, why speak Belarusian if everyone speaks in Russian? Or, for example, school, university, family, everything is in Russian, or even this language is more suitable for grandparents, but not for young people. So, the third part, I would like to compare 3 Slavic languages, such as Belarusian, Ukrainian, and Polish. Belarusian and Ukrainian are East Slavic languages, and Polish is West Slavic language. My comparison will be based on 3 linguistic aspects, such as grammatical, lexical, and phonetic. In the grammar part, I will pay my attention to 2 parts of speech, the noun and the verb. So it will be the quick overview so that you will have the idea how these languages are similar. So let's start with alphabet. In Belarusian language, we have 32 letters, as well as in Polish alphabet, and in Ukrainian, they have 33 letters. So I will talk about characteristic letters, not about all letters. The first letter will be yo. So if you know the Russian alphabet, they also have the same letter, yo. The next letter will be U, which is called uniskladové. Yes, and the third letters will be E and fourth I. For example, the word erudite in Belarusian erudit. And in Ukrainian is the same, erudit, but written in different letters. So the letters are different, sounds are the same. Pay attention that in Belarus we don't have this letter, the letter sh. We write this letter using two letters, sh and ch. For example, as in word szczęście. And in Ukrainian word, they use only one letter, szczęście. So yes, it was Belarusian alphabet. The lexical similarity of these languages is striking. There are a lot of words that are similar. For example, as kava is the same in Ukrainian, Polish, and Belarusian. Or, for example, the word dom, which means house, in Ukrainian, the same. Dim, and in Polish, dom. Other words coincide in Belarusian and Ukrainian and different in Polish or vice versa. Just to show the similarities and the difference between the languages, let's compare the names of colors. So I will read them just so you have an idea. So the first column is for Belarusian language, second for Ukrainian language, and the third one is for Polish language. So let's start with Belarusian. Синий, синий, небесный, зеленый, 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 жовтий, 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 червоний, червоний, червоний. So you can see that they're similar. Yes. Let's speak about noun. Belarusian language has three genders, masculine, feminine, and neutral one. So I choose three nouns. Let's start with feminine one. For example, we have, as you see, we have 7 cases in Belarusian, in Polish, and in Ukrainian language. We have 7 cases, nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, instrumental, and prepositional. And pay attention that in Ukrainian language and Polish language, they also have vocative one, and in Belarusian, it's almost unused. We lost it, and it's used only in literature, in poems. Yes. So, for example. As I said, I choose the most similar lexically words just to show you the similarities and the differences, of course. As we see in the nominative, the word kava, which means coffee, is the same in these 3 languages, kava, kava, and in Polish also kava. So in genitive, the word is the same, also the same in all 3 languages, even though in Belarusian and Ukraine they use different letters. Kavi, kavi, and also kavi. So in dative, the same are Polish and Belarusian, and Ukrainian is kavi. And Belarusian and Polish is kave. Yes. For example, accusative is the same in Ukrainian and Belarusian, kavu, and different in Polish languages. And the second one you can see, kavaju in Belarusian, kavoju in Ukrainian, kavom in Polish, and the next one will be kave, kavi, kave, and vocative only in Ukrainian and Polish, kavo. Yes. So this is for masculine. I choose the word house. In Belarus, it sounds like dom. In Ukrainian, dim. And in Polish, also dom. So you can see. And for neutral one, I choose the word okno in Belarusian. That means, I don't remember. Yes. Okay, wikno in Ukrainian and okno in Polish, okay? And so, what about, as you see, the endings of nouns are almost the same in many cases, but you must pay attention on differences of these languages. So, if we speak about verbs, we have three senses, present, past, and future, and another morphological categories such as conjugation, type, gender, and so on. So I choose two verbs, one regular one, like read, and one irregular one, such as eat. So just to see similarities and difference. So it's the word to eat. And the next one is, it was the word to read, and this one is the word to eat. So I will read єсті, їсти, єсть, єм, їм, єм, ясі, їси, єш, єсть, їсть, є, ямо, ядім, їмо, єми, ясте, ястьо, їсте, єте, ядуть, їдять, єдьом. So, by comparing all these nouns and verbs, I want to show that if you already know some closely related language, it will be easy to you to start to learn Belarusian, and it may be useful to compare these languages and pay attention on their differences, okay? And I hope I could encourage you to start to learn Belarusian. Дякую велике. Thank you. Thank you a lot. So if you have some questions, what stereotypes prevent Belarusian from learning their language? So, as I said, a lot of Belarusians speak Russian, and that's a problem. That they have a lot of stereotypes, that family will not understand me, and a lot of stereotypes. Maybe you will be afraid to speak. I'm even afraid when I speak Belarusian in Belarus because of political situation, and yeah, there are a lot of stereotypes. At what age did you learn Belarusian? So, I don't remember at what age I learned Belarusian, but I think it wasn't natural way as I learned Russian. I think I learned it in school, yes. So it was about 6 years, 6, 7. What are these two different forms in the conjugation of verb to eat in the plural? So we have the word to eat. Yes. I don't see the question. So it's possible to use these forms, yamo and yadim. Yadim is, I think it's more, it's used more because yamo was banned. It wasn't possible to use this form. But right now, they are both used in Belarusian language. So you can use yamo, yadim when we speak about we eat, мы ямо, мы ядим, and you can use two forms ясте и ястё when we speak about you in plural form. Yes. The next question. Do you think Belarusian should completely replace Russian in the future, free Belarus as the official language in education media? So I hope that it won't be replaced by Russian, and that's why I'm here now talking about Belarusian, and just wanted to show that I'm Belarusian and I speak Belarusian, and I will raise my child as a native speaker of Belarusian language. Yes. Do Belarusian mix up Belarusians with Russian like the Ukrainians? So in my city, they don't mix up two languages, but my parents do mistakes in Russian language, mistakes characteristic for Belarusian language. So it's not mistakes, but it's the word, Belarusian's word, said in Russian speech. You say that in school Russian is used, but are there at least classes for Belarusian? Yes. We have 2 classes of Belarusian language at week. Do you ever get the 3 languages mixed up? So I never mixed Belarusian and Russian because I know them. I'm pretty fluent in these languages, but I mix up Ukrainian. I speak Ukrainian with my family because they switched to Ukrainian after February 2022. And I mix Ukrainian, Russian, and Belarusian when I speak Ukrainian. When I don't know a word in Ukrainian, I used to remember a word from Belarusian or Russian. How often do you use Belarusian in your everyday life? So unfortunately, I don't use quite a lot because I live in Italy, and I use Italian in my everyday life. I try to speak Belarusian with my parents. They don't want to speak Belarusian to me, but I speak to them in Belarusian. Yes. Are there significant regional difference in Belarusian? So this question, I think it's maybe more useful to ask Albert, but I know that there is a dialect in Belarus also. For example, 2 days ago, I bought a book in Belarusian dialect. I don't remember how it's called, this Belarusian dialect, but it's really like a mix between Belarusian and Ukrainian, and I understand this dialect. 1 minute. I meant whether Belarusian should become the only official language also in educational and media. So I think, yes, it may be cool if we have only one language, Belarusian, because now we have only Russian language in school, in universities. It's almost impossible to get documents in Belarusian language, and I hope that the situation will change. Yes. Живе вечно. what tips do you have for Belarusian who understand everything, read often in Belarusian, but cannot speak the language? So, to start to speak the language, you must start to speak it. It's a simple answer, yes, because of course reading is also very important to get comprehensional input through reading, through listening. That's how I learned Italian, listening to podcast Italiano, and yes, just listen more, read more, and try to speak. Maybe prepare the speech for specific situation and just say 2 words this week, and maybe the next week you will say 10 words, yes? Okay. No, I cannot recommend Belarusian Ukrainian dictionary, unfortunately, but I have an application. I use it to check if I write the word correctly in Belarusian. Does your family know that they mix languages? Yes, they know. So that's all? Okay. Thank you so much. Великий дякуй in Belarusian language. That's all.